In this lesson, we will focus on persisting changes that we have made to a persistent entity. When we retrieve an entity from the database, it comes back in a persistent state, and we may want to make some changes to that entity. So maybe we change some fields, and then we want to save those state changes to our database. That's our goal for this lesson, and that's what we're going to learn how to do. So looking at our example, we have the session, so that's going to open a persistence context, and then we start our transaction, and now we're going to pull back a bank entity from the session. I'll use the get method, and I'm going to get the entity with the ID of 1. Now we're just going to make some changes to the bank entity. So I'm going to set the name of the bank to New Hope Bank. We'll also set the last updated by field to Kevin Bowersox, and we'll also change the last updated date. Okay, so we have those changes in place. Hibernate will track those changes to the entity, and when we commit our transaction, which we have opened in line 22, those changes will be updated on that entity. So let's just go through and run this application. And there we see, first Hibernate issues our select statement. So we retrieve the entity and put it into a persistent state. Then we modify some fields on the entity. And then once we call commit, Hibernate realizes that changes have been made to the entity and it is no longer in sync with the database. So then Hibernate issues an update statement to sync up the object model changes with the database. Now we can head to our database. We will run a select statement. And here we see that the bank with the ID of 1 is now New Hope Bank. And we have persisted the changes from our entity to our database. So it's as simple as that when you want to make some modifications to an entity that is in a persistent state. You just retrieve it, make your changes, and then commit your changes through the transaction. The important part being all of this is done within a transaction.